I'd like to introduce Jay Mannion. I've known Jay in a few different guises, but most recently he um, did an excellent session with our armed forces community of practice, looking at some of the mental health issues in transitioning from forces over into Civvy Street. Um, He's joining us from the south of Spain, I believe, today, but it doesn't sound as if the weather's much better down there. So it's not quite as glamorous as it sounds. And he's going to be talking about the four pillars of human performance well-being. So over to you, Jay. Thanks.
Fantastic, Mark. Thank you very much. And I'll be pleased to let you know I'm now looking out and I can see some blue sky and the sun is shining just on time. Firstly, to the three ladies, what fantastic presentations. They were absolutely brilliant. To everyone here, thank you for being here. I'd like to send you all genuinely a big dose of good health and happiness. And I hope you do get some sunshine. So I haven't got any slides. I've got three questions. Now, they might not feel that comfortable, actually. So if people don't want to answer these questions in chat, totally understand. But I'd like you to have a think about them because as the session progresses, I'm hoping they'll make sense. The first question is, if you was told you only had 1 week to live, what would be the biggest change for you? That's the first question. Second question is, why do you deserve to live? And the third question is, what does your best self look like? Okay. So who am I professionally? So I'm a personal trainer. I'm a nutrition and fasting specialist. In fact, as I'm talking to you now, I'm actually on day 9 of a 21-day water fast. I've been trained in mental health and human behavior for a long time. That was driven initially by my younger brother, unfortunately falling really ill with mental health when we was in our teenage years. And I was like, right, I'm going to become whatever I need to become and study what I need to study to become his registered living carer, which is what I went on to do. And I'm a meditation and breathwork coach. Specifically, in fact, 6 years ago, I launched my own type of breathwork, which is called ECS breathwork. And I'll speak a bit more about that as the session goes on. I'm so glad other people have touched on the power of breath as well, because it's not, I used to think it was all sort of woo-woo monk position, lotus position in the hills, but it's not, it's all anatomical. I've studied anatomical science. That was a big part of me pursuing my personal training career. And I'm an endocannabinoid system specialist. That's what I've been really studying for the last 10 years. Now, I'd like to know in chat, does anyone know what the endocannabinoid system is? First question. I won't have too many. But does anyone know what your ECS, your endocannabinoid system is? Nope. You'll be quite interested to know there's quite a few doctors that I actually work alongside, and that'll make sense in my next part that also don't know what that is. So that's me professionally and academically. However, that doesn't actually tell you anything about me, because just like you, I'm sure, I wake up in the morning, I'm a husband, I'm a dad 3 times over, I'm a coach in many different aspects, which I'm going to touch on. I'm also a son, I'm also a brother, also a friend. My point is, we play many, many, many roles every single day, and we give a little bit different versions of ourselves to each of the roles we play. Now, for many of us, the role we spend most time in is the professional role, is the work role, okay? But I just want to disclaim something from the start, and I'm happy to be challenged on this. Anyone who suggests that you don't bring your personal life into your professional life is insane. It's impossible. There is a crossover. Why? Because the one thing you don't play is you. You are you at the crux of every single role that you play. You're the bit that really counts. You're the bit that impacts absolutely everything. Now, who do I work with? So I work with kids in schools. I coach out here, kids suffering from things like ADHD, anxiety, obviously, depression. Over the last 4 years now, I've coached, whether being mass big groups or more concentrated groups and one-on-one, over 1,000 of our wonderful British soldiers, men and women. I've coached many people from the corporate world. And just a quick disclaimer, actually, I was one of them. My last employed job, as Mark will know, I was actually working in IT sales. I was one of them annoying IT sales guys that would walk into your offices and try to sell you systems that you knew that I clearly didn't know much about. And you just wanted me to get out of the room and get the price and work out. So I was one, that was my last role. So I do have an understanding of how stressful the IT world can be. My biggest, I'd say, achievement and what I do professionally still in regards to coaching and what I'm going to present to you today in regards to the 4 pillars. Sorry, the water fast does dry you out quick. Is for the last, which started with a very personal story. For the last decade, I've actually been a cancer coach. And when I spoke about being an endocannabinoid system specialist, I'm a consultant, in fact, that was to support the work that was initially for a family member that had been told a horrific bit of news in regards to how long their life was going to last. Thankfully, it went from 6 months to 11 years, God rest him, which was fantastic. But the work I've been doing with people with cancer, I've coached kids with cancer as young as 3 years old and right up to adults in their 90s, has been, of all the academic studies I've done, of all the books I've read, of all the mental health training, nothing comes close to working with people at the end of their physical experience. I'm not a subscriber to knowing what happens next. I'm sure people here have got different religions, but for me, what I definitely do know is we've all got an ending, stating the obvious. And the truths that I've listened to from people at the end, that actually 6 years ago, when I started actually this whole 4-pillar process, it was 6 years back when I was losing everything. I was losing my mind. I was having a full-on mental breakdown. I was losing my wife, which means I would have lost my kids. And it got to the darkest point. And I need to tell you a little bit about some of the traumas that are in my life that I'm not going to say for impact, shock value. It absolutely, I'm hoping, will give credence to what I present in regards to the 4 pillars. Because let's face it, whatever you've got going on in your life will be down to personal experiences that potentially, just my experience as a coach, that will go back to things that have happened that have just not been processed, they've just not been dealt with, they've been tucked away, which then over the course of your life causes patterns that are inbuilt to protect you. But they don't really protect you, they restrict you. They basically, they induce self-limiting beliefs. So these are the 2 biggest traumas in my life. As I said, forgive me in advance, I'm not trying to upset anyone. As a kid, I was groomed and sexually abused. Didn't tell anyone. Later on in life, as I said to you, I'm a father 3 times over. However, we lost our 2nd child. That hurt more than the abuse. But for 27 years, I practiced being a victim. I practiced anxiety, depression, blame, anger, spite. I built all of these patterns inside of me, which affected every role that I played. I only come to terms with this 6 years ago, which was a difficult journey in itself. But my point is, all your life experiences will be back. In fact, not all your life experiences. When life is going well, when you wake up and things are just swimmingly well, good morning, like you're not learning, you're experiencing, which is wonderful. But the truth is, you can't read another book or go to any self-help class to actually deal with yourself at its core level. Because only you know what you've experienced. Only you have chosen to feel and attribute the feelings to your experiences. No one else. You might be similar to others, but only you have experienced what you've experienced. And my point in saying that is, and this is factual, your experiential knowledge far outweighs any book you'll ever read, any self-help class you'll ever go to. When you can tuck into your past without the judgment, the guilt, the shame, everything else that you've inbuilt over the years to build all these patterns. And as human beings, that's all we do. We build patterns. We get into relationships, we build patterns. We become fathers or mothers, we build patterns. Those patterns that you've built, if you want change, only you can make that decision to change them. So moving on to not just the IT world, which is obviously where you lovely people come from, your world as a whole. The IT world, the role as a professional, obviously takes up a lot of your life, and things that, you know, traumatic events that happen, redundancy or whatever else happens in work, of course, it has a massive impact. And just like I said, you can't say that you don't take your personal life into your professional life. It works the other way. Professional life comes home. I know that for sure. So where I specialize is in anxiety, depression, burnout, obviously things like weight as well, from my fitness and fasting background as well. But the biggest thing that I do is I not help people, I help people help themselves to choose to feel enough. Because again, this isn't suggestible, and I'm happy to be challenged on any of this. When in life you felt at your absolute best, when things just seem to be falling into favor, the feeling that you're left with, that you can really feel in your stomach, is contentment. You feel enough. There's no judgment. There's no comparisons. You're not looking elsewhere to see where you're falling short. You're just experiencing being you and realizing, actually, I like me. So that is sort of the basis of my expertise, if you like. Don't like using words like that. But anyway, so what I'm going to introduce to you now, though, is the 4 pillars. Now, when I built these 4 pillars, as I said, I was at my darkest place in life. I've never been that low, and thank God I've never gone anywhere near where I was since. Definitely not perfect. And by the way, today, what I'm sharing, I'm not sharing from a place of authority. I'm sharing as one human to another that has really come to appreciate what it is to be a human being. Now, the 4 steps are totally grounded in anatomical science. Everything that I use is actually based on the work that I started near enough 10 years ago when working with people with cancer. Now, that being said, 6 years ago, what I realized was that the people that I was working with, the ones that really made the change, and I know it sounds like, oh my God, you know, cancer. The reason I asked about what would you do if you was told you had a week to live is because I've worked with people in that position. 6 weeks to live, a month to live, a year to live, 2 years to live. That's the biggest change that anyone can enforce on you. That's much more powerful than redundancy, getting sacked, or whatever else in your life. If someone introduces you to your mortality, that's huge. That's the ultimate. That's something that we don't like to think about, but it's going to happen regardless, one way or the other. But when we feel, of course, what now? It's cut short. We've had all these visions of where we're going to get to in our life, see the grandkids and everything else. All of a sudden, it changes everything. Now, what I realized 6 years ago, that why I was taken to such a dark place is because I was working with people that were put into a situation that I didn't like to think about, that was far greater in regards to the fear element, the anxiety element, the PTSD element, than what my own problems were at that point. I could see, hold on, I'm not dying. But it was what I watched. It was what I witnessed and started putting together. I was trying to find the common denominators. What's going on here? How are these people? And there was at one point that I had a client on every continent of the world. The only thing that wove these people together was cancer. That was the only thing. Other than that, different colors, different creeds, different cultures, different religions, some affluent, some poor. Yet at the end, having conversations with these people, it was the same things that I realized after completely breaking myself, and these people saved my life, in my opinion, that I finally realized in me where my problems actually really lied. So, pillar 1. Here's a question in chat. First question. Put a yes or no. Do you think you can consciously control something that is happening 27,000 times every day? Let's see what people say. 27,000 times. Okay. So, stating the obvious, do you think you can control something that is happening on average between 70 to 80,000 times every day? I think that's a generic no, surely. Over the course of 24 hours, you have between 70 to 80,000 thoughts. Imagine that. 95% of that number mirror the thought patterns you had the day before, the day before, the day before, the day before, that will go back, way back to before you can even remember, because we work on patterns. Pillar one, step one is ego. Yeah? If I ask you if you've got an ego, any of you that say no and didn't actually say no by verbalizing it, but just in your head go, oh, no, I ain't got an ego, that's your ego. That internal chatter in your mind that's going on, that often you're having arguments upon arguments, and one part of your mind is arguing with the other part of the mind, that's the egoic mind, the unconscious mind, the mind that's there to act as a fake protector, to induce them self-limiting beliefs. It's the ego even that starts in the morning. How often do you wake up in the morning, 6 o'clock, and before you've even got out of bed, you've told yourself all the things you've done and where things are going to frustrate you and annoy you at 6 o'clock in the evening. The ego swings just like that. 95% of those thoughts you have swings from past thoughts, which has been touched on, where you go to your past experiences and you start judging yourself. And then what you do is you swing into the future and you go to these future fictional world, let's call it Narnia, of an environment and scenarios, and you depict it negatively based on the past. But let's now be really logical, because these pillars are grounded in logic. Your past, you can't change. Stating the obvious. Your past doesn't define who you are now. Your future, it's not happened yet. You don't play any part in your future other than what you're doing right now. Because all your past ever was and will always be is a bunch of now moments that happened back then. So pillar one and step one is accepting that when poop hits the fan, you have no control over the unconscious negativity that goes off in your mind that starts depicting every reason in the world why you need to catastrophize that the world is ending. You don't control that. You'll have some conscious thoughts, absolutely. But all the noise and all the negativity, you won't control. Step one is accepting that. But there needs to be a tool. Now, when I started going to therapists and looking at counseling, my biggest issue was I realized that I was just getting a fix. I turn up on a Tuesday, I get my fix, lovely jubbly, go back to myself on the Wednesday, and it's back to the same internal chatter, same noise. Go back again next Tuesday. What was missing and why it didn't work for me is there was nothing that they literally handed me and said, there you go, Jay, use that when I'm not here. So I'd like to introduce the first tool. And trust me, this will drive you bananas to start with. But again, it's completely grounded in logic and science. When all those thoughts are speeding away from you, and often you're chasing them, one thought leads to another thought, leads to another thought, before you know it, the day's a write-off. I'd like to ask you to simply, when it's negative, don't get me wrong, if you're having 70 to 80,000 positive thoughts, swimming it, love it, headlong dive into that and enjoy those positive thoughts. Because the beautiful thing about the pillars, you only need them when the poop hits the fan. So when that first negative thought, which will often be a thought that you've thought before and before and before, creeps in, whether if you're at home, vocalize it. If you're around the workplace, do it in your mind. Literally just ask why. And if it helps in your mind, spell it out, W-H-Y. What does that do? And it definitely does do something. What it does, it introduces a conscious thought to an unconscious thought pattern. So where that would normally have gone, you go, why? What that also does is it creates a neutrality, a neutral point. That thought that was going to go there, you've just intercepted. Now, here's the kicker. Don't try to answer the why, because your ego will start doing that straight away. In fact, the first thing it will do, if this is a new concept for you, it will be, oh, that's that thing that Jay guy said at the ITSMF meeting. And it will literally start straight away trying to dismiss it. But I challenge you, do it again in your mind. Why? 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 Because at some point, logic will kick in, because all of that negativity is illogical. It's irrational. So step one, and trust me, there's so much more I could go into, but I'm conscious of time, and my wife always says I talk too much, so I'm trying to keep this concise. Step one, ego, accepting that everything that goes wrong at work, okay, you don't have any control over. There's only one thing you have control over, which is step two, which we're going to get to, which is your choice of reaction. But step one, pillar one, ego, is accepting it's okay to not control your mind. Because the truth is, if, let's just say we somehow in this meeting, that we could all see like a thought bubble and could see what people were thinking as people were presenting today. I promise you, come the end of this session, most of us would be thinking, he's nuts, she's nuts, they need to go and speak to someone. We all have irrational thought patterns. It's just the way we are. We're wired. It really is. All right, so step one, pillar one, ego. The first tool is the why. Okay, like I said, there's more to go into with that, but I just haven't got the time to. So, pillar two, we've agreed that you don't control 70 to 80,000 thoughts. And by the way, the 27,000 number, that's your breath. On average, you breathe 27,000 times every day, completely disconnected, detached, oblivious to the thing that actually gives you your life source, right? So, step two, pillar two, soul. So to be clear, what do I class as the soul is the harboring place for something that is so wonderful that actually does unify human beings, regardless of differences that unfortunately these days society trying to enhance, color, creed, societal class, whatever you want to say. As human beings, as they say, there's nearly 9 billion of us now on Earth. Okay, so that's 9 billion different stories with different languages and all these differences. Yeah, and just humor me, if an alien came down and just went, right, what is it to be human? And all of these different languages and everything started pumping at this alien, but they was able to interpret a generic message, what would it be? It'd be simple. We all love, we all feel kindness, gratitude, sadness, grief, anger, frustration. We feel. That's all we do as human beings. We feel. Come the end of every day, you assess how that day was by how you felt. Now, although you don't control your mind, not all the time, it's impossible. Again, happy to be challenged, but it's actually anatomically proven. You choose every feeling you've ever had, are having now, and will have. That is on you. Taking accountability and ownership of the fact that you choose your feelings might feel difficult to start with, but that's the egoic mind telling you, no, it can't be. It's his fault. He makes me angry. Oh, what? So he jumps into your body, spins your roulette of emotions and go, right, there you go, anger. It doesn't work that way. There's a trigger, there's a reaction. In science, it's cause and effect. You choose every single feeling you ever have. That is a fact. So what does that mean? Negatively, you choose anxiety, you choose depression, you choose burnout. Yes, you do. And I've worked with, as I said, over 1,000 soldiers. And trust me, burnout, PTSD in that world is, I mean, as extreme as it gets. Okay, and it's quite hard looking at a 16-stone muscly soldier telling him, no, you're choosing that, knowing he wants to rip my head off. But thankfully, he got the concept. You choose those feelings. That's on you. Don't judge yourself. That's egoic. Judgment is a waste of time. It's a pattern that you don't need, self-judgment. But that also means when you have been at your happiest in your life, you might say it's because of the kids, it's because of the other half, it's because of the wedding. No, you chose that feeling. you choose love, you choose kindness, you choose gratitude. So there's a balance, like everything else in life. And that is actually what life, even anatomically, is based on. Anatomically, when you're in a state which is recognized as homeostasis, physically, that is the strongest condition you can ever be in. That is literally when your body starts healing itself. And I've seen that with the work I do with people with cancer. And also what that induces, back to the egoic mind, is when you are in a state of homeostasis, it induces in your mind, people have spoken today about the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex. I want to introduce something else. I call it the Holy Trinity. When your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex are in synergy, they actually initiate something called your vagus nerve, which actually takes that feeling, which it becomes, of calm, presence, clarity, through your vagus nerve, into your heart, into your lungs, and into your even bigger brain than in your head, in your gut. So when you choose your feelings, to wrap up pillar 2, step 2, the soul, choose wisely. But let me give you a tool as well. And this can be quite hard, because especially I'm talking to people that are in a workplace, with colleagues, with managers, but I'm sorry, this is the truth. The tool to take away from pillar 2 is to stand on your truth. In life, from the minute you wake up, you're making decisions. In fact, some of the most difficult decisions you make are before you even leave the house, with the other half, with the kids. Then you get to work, like I said, where you spend a lot of your day with loads of decisions to make. There is only 2 answers to any question, which is what a decision is based on. Someone proposes something and then you've got to come back. You've got to make a decision. You've got to answer. Option 1 is, which is what a lot of us are guilty for, which leads to anxiety, low self-esteem, depression, not feeling good enough, is we jump into the other person's shoes and start depicting what they think we should answer. We start answering as if we need to please them, which straight away, from a foundational perspective, we're off. And if your foundations are off, if you're imbalanced, if you're out of homeostasis, you can't build on an uneven foundation. Anything you do with meaning in your life has to come from a solid base, 10 toes down. Option 2, to any decision you're ever faced with, is quite simple. It's how you feel. Not how you feel them thinking, oh my God, if I say that, they're going to think that. No, it's how you feel. Think about the last time you was in a difficult situation, maybe where there's a conversation going on and you're like, oh, everyone, general consensus, I don't agree with this, and it's getting around to you, and all of a sudden you have to speak and you go, you agree with what was being said, and then you walk away that night and something inside you don't feel right. It says, why didn't you say the truth? Why didn't you stand up? Now, switch that scenario, a time in your life, that same setup, where it comes round to you and you've just got it, you're ready, and you say, whatever it is, and you can see people's reactions. But in you, how did you feel in that moment? You get, in fact, anatomically, an explosional reward from your body. All these happy chemicals, which I won't go into, that literally reward you for standing on your truth. So the tool to use for pillar 2, soul, is quite... Someone's raised a hand. You go with that, Lauren. You raised the hand. You're high-fiving me, or you got a question?
I'm raising a hand because I mean, it's really hard to stay quiet. I'm curious about how many of these studies that you're referring to and how much of this scientific information that you're referring to has included women in the studies, because when you're talking about imbalance and then balance and stuff, and you pick how you feel, as a woman who has premenstrual dysphoric disorder and PCOS, that's extra difficult. And I don't choose to be, when you're saying you choose how you feel, I really struggle to agree with you with that, because the science actually tells you that we don't choose how we feel when we suffer with those conditions. So as a woman who has a 28-day cycle as well, and you move through follicular, menstrual, luteal phase, etc., that impact on that woman is like so different to how a man, for example, goes through, because they have like a 24-hour cycle, for example. So how is that research aligning to both men and women and not just men?
I'm so glad you asked that, because this is actually a true story. I'm going to try and keep this concise to the time so I can get through this. But I'd love to connect. Oh, by the way, people, I've purposefully put my number on there as well for anyone, any questions that people want to WhatsApp me. Lauren, about I don't know how many years ago now, a few years back, I started working with a woman with a specific type of cancer, and I came across the work, and I strongly recommend you look this woman up. Her name is Dr. Christiane Northrup. And I remember after watching one of her seminars, I was like, right, because I've coached a lot of women. In fact, outside of cancer, I've coached more women than I have men, because men have got a bit more of an egotistical, I don't need a coach, than women do. But I ordered a book and it got delivered. And my wife opened the book and she came to me like, why have you ordered this book? Because the book was called The Secret Pleasures of Menopause. Now, I suggest every woman in the world gets this book, but I also suggest every man in the world also purchases this book. So what I can say, Lauren, is there's a reference point, Dr. Christiane Northrup. She's only ever worked with women. She's in her 70s now. She's still alive and kicking, going strong. But again, Lauren, please take my number, because I can give you more in-depth information about that as well, because that makes a big difference when working with women with cancer, because there is a huge link to emotional traumas in women that actually manifest in women as cancer. And again, this is all scientifically proven. And she's leading this research, Dr. Northrup, that actually manifests in women in their lower parts, in their private parts as well. So yes, I know this is hard to hear, Lauren. It doesn't sound, and I know there are other sides. Oh, thank you. Someone's just put that. Thank you, Simone. That's amazing. But I'd love to talk to you about that more, because I have worked with people just like yourself that again, makes the same claims. And I know it's difficult. Truly, I know it's difficult to hear that. But again, if I can continue, please, Lauren, connect with me and I can have more information with you. Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Fantastic. Right. So step 3, pillar 3. So far, ego, the mind, 70 to 80,000 thoughts, we don't control. We have to accept that. Step 2, I know, Lauren, you're challenging me on this. Okay. But I'm going to stand on it. Feelings are a choice. They're an actual choice. So accepting that we do choose our feelings, and I know, Lauren, at this point, it's hard for you to do, which is fine. And I'm not dismissing what you're saying at all. I'm always happy to be challenged. But if we can accept we do choose our feelings, that creates something which is step 3, pillar 3, which is the now. Now, I'm one of them people that for years I saw signs up, live in the moment, be in the now. And I used to think, oh my God, what a load of nonsense. But the truth is, anatomically, again, is the only time life is actually happening is in the now. It's in the moment. Now, when you are in balance, in homeostasis, and everything is just in place, which means you're not thinking about things that happened 5 minutes ago or yesterday or going to the future, and you're just enjoying the moment, how does it feel? It feels enough. It feels content. There is no concern. There's nothing other than experiencing what is happening. And once we can start accepting that we choose to be outside of the now, we choose to be unpresent, even in that awareness of choosing to accept that, we create a present point yet again. With the ego creating a present point is the why, is the neutrality. I'm open-minded, I just need facts, and I don't mind having a difficult challenge. Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm all for that. I've had lots and lots of debates, so we can do this outside of this, Lauren, 100%. I'm looking forward to it already. So yeah, the ego, the step to help you when you're having that stressful moment is to try it out. Like I said, and the truth is, when it don't work, be honest with yourself. It's because you choose for it not to work. But when you do use the why and you, oh my God, it worked, I'm going to choose to think something different, you can't unsee that. And you will experience that. And I've coached literally, outside of the 1,000 soldiers, hundreds of people that have used these 4 steps that were, I don't even take, I'm not even saying they're my steps. I created these through observation of people at the end of their life, what they shared, what they told me. First thing they was, all the stuff that you think about on a daily basis that self-persecutes yourself. When you look in the mirror and you start tearing yourself down, look at that stretch mark, look at this, look at that, and you just literally destroy the beautiful thing that you are, that's your ego. That's all ego that's happening. Step 2, the soul. Using that, standing on your truth. It's difficult. And a lot of you will tell me all the reasons. Oh no, at work, I can't do it. Here, I can't do it. But be logical. If you're not standing on your truth, there's only one other thing that you're doing, is you're lying. Maybe not to the person, but you are to yourself. Step 3, pillar 3, being in the now, that's a game changer. When you feel present, which you all have, just like me, nothing feels better than being present in yourself. Now, a little tool, and in fact, let me give you an example. For those who've got kids, and I'm guilty of doing this. I'm Jay, the soul coach that, teaches the 4 pillars and everything else. I've not perfected this. This is how I know they work, because I'm using them on a daily basis. How often I've got a little girl, Aaliyah. She'll be talking to me. About 3 or 4 times later, I find it, Dad, what? You've been answering me, but you're not listening, because I'm on my phone. And I'm thinking making this appointment is so much more important than listening to my daughter. But then when I engage with my daughter and I get that feeling of guilt in the moment, because I realized I wasn't being present, versus when you are totally engaged with your kids and having the time of your life by just being yourself with your kids, being present, being in the now. And that traverses, like I said, remember, the you bit in the middle, you don't actually play as a role. That's who you are. All the choices you make off the back of the choices you make in being you impact all the roles, especially the one at work. So being in the now, and I'll give you a tool for that as well. There are much more. I'm going to have to really sort of nutshell these, but a really good method, which you can do without anybody noticing. If you're at work, someone's getting on your nerves or something is building up and you can feel yourself getting caught up in your thoughts, which means you're not obviously present in the moment, squeeze something. Squeeze your bum cheeks, squeeze your abdominal muscles, squeeze something on your table and connect consciously with the action that you're doing, which is a now action. Trust me, give it a go. Right, pillar 4, step 4, which is no tool for, it's what you get to enjoy. About 9 years ago, I started studying something called etymology, which if you're not familiar with etymology, it's the study of words, where they come from a foundational perspective, the root. Now, over the course of time, especially English, a lot of languages have been bastardized, changed massively. And a lot of words that we use now mean a completely different thing from when we started. From when they started. Now, one word that has stood the test of time, there's many others, but one that I want to highlight because it's pillar 4, is the word self. If you look in the dictionary, pretty much verbatim, it will say that which differentiates you from anyone else. Now, pillar 4, step 4 is best self. Now, what I've come to observe working with the wonderful people I've worked with over these last years with the situation they've been facing is at the end, that is all you want to feel. It's nothing to do with your job. It's nothing to do with the experiences you've had. It's to do with how you felt in being yourself. So it's everything to do with the experiences you've had and how you've, in those moments, felt in being you. Being the best self, being the best you, is there anything in life that can be more important to you than that come the end? And again, I'll use those for my kids and any of you that have got kids. When I pass, the one thing that I want my kids to absolutely know is, regardless where they are, what job they've got, what people are around, what environment they're in, that they're enough just as they are. They don't need to perform. They can be themselves and stand on it and be content in being themselves. And those first 3 steps, if you follow those 3 steps, and I'll put my website and stuff up after. You can look at the testimonials. I've worked with such a diverse group of people that I've taken through the same steps. That feeling of being your best self, again, it's a choice. It's something you have to take accountability and ownership of. I'll leave you with this. Again, challenge me. You are the only you that ever was, is, and will be. That's a fact. There's never been another one of you before. There's not another one of you walking around now, and there'll never be another one of you again. So you are a one-off life event. You're special. You're unique. No one can be a better version of you than you. And you, just as you are enough in all ways for always. So thank you very much for listening.